Kedves 11-esek, eljött az összefoglalás ideje. A két háború közti Magyarország történetét fogjuk átvenni. Mindenekelőtt a 18-19-es események, tehát a Károlyi Mihály által vezetett kormány és a utána következő kommunista rövid időszakot, azt nem kérem részleteibe. Egy-két dolgot visszatekintünk, tudjátok az általános információkat, ki kicsoda, de ebből kifejtős biztos nem lesz. Trianon nagyon fontos, és a horthy rendszer konszolidációja még ami nagyon-nagyon fontos, ami pedig utána jön, azt ugyancsak nem részleteiben fogom kérni. De erre majd kitérek mindjárt, hogy átvesszük ezt a dolgot, több videóban fogom nektek bemutatni. So first of all, there was the end of the war, and the soldiers were coming home from Hungary, coming home from the fronts. And of course, people wanted peace, but there was serious economic crisis, if you remember. And this chart I often show you because here, as you see, in 1918, the National Council, the Hungarian National Council was formed with Károly Mihály, and the Eszter Revolution put him to power. It was on the 30th and 31st of October 1918, and the Eszter Revolution soldiers, which was actually a left-wing ideologist revolution, so closer to the left politicians like Károly, who got power. Charles IV couldn't get the throne, and of course he was forced to appoint him prime minister. So this is how the Károly government started its reign. Károly couldn't fix the problems of economic problems. He started a land reform which was not very popular because the greatest landowners didn't give their lands. So actually it was unsuccessful, and unfortunately the foreign policy was even more serious because the demarcation line by the Entente came closer to Hungary from the south with the Serbian army supported by the Entente army, and the Czechs and Slovaks were coming closer and the Romanians were coming closer. So the country must have been defended, but he didn't defend it. He postponed it always, but the Entente didn't want to help the country. So when the Entente gave out the Vix Memorandum or V Memorandum in March 1919 on the 20th, this huge territory should have been given to the Entente with great cities like these. Then Károly resigned and left the country, and this is when the communist takeover came. Actually, on the 21st of March 1919, the communist Kun Béla created dictatorship of the proletariat and started the Red Terror, which was led by Samuel Tibor and followers. They were the Lenin boys, and this communist period wanted to be just like the Soviet Union, and this was the Republic of Councils. Ugye ez a tanácsköztársaság ideje volt. This reigned for 133 days. They created the Red Army to start to defend the country. They could hold this central territory, but of course the southern and the eastern part was already in other nations' hands. But there was an upperland campaign which was quite glorious. They could get back some territories in the north. So their foreign policy was started with a positive period. But unfortunately they couldn't solve anything. In this map you see that this is what they got, but unfortunately this army got exhausted, they couldn't survive, and the Romanians broke the lines in August and they reached Budapest, and Budapest was robbed out by the Romanians. So the end of the communist regime came. The Horthy era started with making peace and of course the Trianon we are going to speak about. Well, of course, after the Red Terror, the White Terror came, mostly here in the Transdanubia. There were paramilitary forces killing, executed communist supporters. But in Szeged, there was Horthy and the government, which had a great Minister of Defense, Horthy Miklós, and he formed a national army here. And he started kind of making peace in the Transdanubia. He put his center in Siófok. I talked about this admiral. He fused the White Terror military groups into his army and finally reached Budapest. And on the white horse, he marched into Budapest, which was considered, of course, a left-wing communist city, and he took the power. And I also would like to mention that here in Vienna, the anti-Bolshevik committee, the ABC, was formed with the conservative politicians like Bethlen István Telekipa, who would become prime ministers soon. They were waiting for the perfect time to come back to Budapest and start a kind of conservative, moderate new leadership. So as you see, tanácsköztársaságú, bocsánat, National Council Nemzeti Tanács után Károly után jön az MSZP által vezetett tanácsköztársaság, akik elveszítése után egy új választással a Keresztény Nemzeti Egyesülés pártja, ez a Teleki Bethlen párt, és a kisgazdapárt, a Smallholders alakítanak kormányt. Tehát ez az, amikor az országnak alá kell írnia majd a békediktátumot. Horthy became the governor, actually regent of the country. He is the great leader who is governing the ship on the way of communists, and Hungary will be great again. The Trianon Peace Treaty was signed. Of course, Abonyi Albert was the leader of the delegation who wanted to stop it, somehow modify the ideas. Teleki Pál, who became prime minister in the following year, in the same year, he was an expert of geography. He created the famous red map, but of course, they couldn't change the outcome of this peace treaty, so it had to be signed. On the 4th of June, it was signed, and this is how much territories were taken from the country. From the upper land, please remember these parts, Transylvania to Romania and others, I told you in earlier PPT. The number that the country became 93,000 square kilometers, and as you see, the population of the country, how they changed. We also talked about not only military not only territorial and demographical losses, like for example the 3 million Hungarians who were out of the borders just in a day, and they had to face the local authorities immediately. But we also talked about military restrictions, that Hungary couldn't have modern weapons, and there was a limited army, and all the surrounding countries were much stronger than Hungary. Of course, there were economic consequences because this huge market of the monarchy collapsed. So we needed structural changes. We needed new fields of agriculture and economy and industry to be started. And it was only Budapest, which was a huge center. It was too big for the new country, which was small. And unfortunately, the other countries applied protective customs, so cooperation was impossible. And we lost a lot of uh, industrial centers and mining centers, and as you see, important junctions of railway lines, like Szabadka is the best example. So unfortunately, Hungary was cut into pieces, and the neighbors got really valuable parts. This picture also shows us economic and some territorial changes. Okay, so Trianon has serious effects, like 400,000 refugees coming to Hungary who lost their jobs, lost their properties. They had to stay in wagons, in railway cars for years until they recovered. I'm going to continue with consolidation in the next video.